In a quiet little town where everyone knew each other, there lived a woman named Maria. She wasn't rich or famous, but she had something far more valuable, a big heart and an unwavering sense of love for her family. Her husband had passed away years ago, leaving behind a cozy home they had built together with their own hands. That house was filled with memories, laughter at the dinner table, birthday celebrations, and lazy afternoons spent tending to the garden out back. Maria's only child, Daniel, grew up in that house. As a boy, he was sweet and kind, always hugging his mom and telling her how much he loved her. But as time went on, things changed. When Daniel became a teenager, he started dreaming big dreams. He wanted to move to the city, make money, and live a life full of success. And so, when he turned 18, he packed his bags and left, promising to visit often. At first, Daniel kept his promise. He would call every week and come home during holidays. But as the years rolled by, those calls grew shorter and his visits became fewer and farther between. Maria tried not to take it personally. After all, she understood that life in the city could be busy. Still, there were nights when she sat alone in her living room, staring at old photos of Daniel as a child, wondering if he missed her half as much as she missed him. One day, out of the blue, Daniel showed up at her doorstep, with his new wife, Jessica, in tow. They said they'd decided to move back to the town because it felt like home. Maria's heart swelled with joy. Finally, her son was coming back to her. She welcomed them with open arms, letting them stay in her house without hesitation. What mother wouldn't do the same? But soon enough, cracks began to show in this picture-perfect reunion. Daniel didn't seem to have the same warmth he used to. He acted distant, almost annoyed whenever Maria asked about his day or offered help around the house. At first, she brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just stressed from work. But then came the arguments. It started small. Daniel complained about the grocery bills being too high. Then he criticized the way Maria cooked, saying it wasn't healthy enough. Every little thing seemed to irritate him. One evening, while Maria was trying to fix a leaky faucet in the kitchen, Daniel walked in and sighed loudly. "Why don't you let me handle these things?" he snapped. "You're not getting any younger, Mom." His words stung, but Maria stayed silent. She didn't want to argue. Instead, she smiled softly and said, "I'm sorry if I bother you. I'll try to do better." That moment should have been a warning sign, but Maria chose to ignore it. Deep down, she hoped her kindness would bring back the loving son she once knew. Things escalated one chilly winter night. Maria had been feeling unwell for weeks, and her medical bills were piling up. Hesitant but desperate, she approached Daniel to ask for help. "Just until I can get back on my feet," she promised. Daniel's reaction was explosive. His face turned red with anger as he shouted, "How many times do I have to tell you? You're nothing but a burden. This is my house now, and I won't keep supporting someone who can't even take care of themselves." Maria stood frozen, her heart shattering into pieces. She opened her mouth to say something, anything, but no words came out. Tears welled up in her eyes as Daniel continued yelling, pacing back and forth like a storm cloud. "If you can't contribute here, then maybe it's best if you leave," he spat finally, crossing his arms over his chest. The room fell silent except for the sound of Maria's ragged breathing. For a moment she thought about pleading with him, reminding him of everything she had done for him since he was born. But looking into his cold, unyielding eyes, she realized it wouldn't matter. Something inside her broke that night. Not just her spirit, but the bond she thought they shared. Without another word, Maria went to her room and packed a small suitcase. She took only what she needed, a few clothes, some photographs, and a locket her late husband had given her. As she stepped outside, clutching the suitcase tightly, she glanced back at the house one last time. It wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was a lifetime of memories. And yet, here she was, walking away from it all. The air was freezing, biting at her cheeks as she wandered through the empty streets. Where could she go? Who would take her in? Fear gripped her heart, but beneath it lay a flicker of determination. No matter how hard things got, she refused to give up. She had survived losing her husband, raising a child alone, and countless other challenges. This was just another chapter in her story, one she intended to rewrite on her own terms. Little did Maria know, this painful beginning would lead to a journey of strength, resilience, and ultimately, redemption. Though her heart ached with betrayal, she carried within her the seeds of a brighter future. And though Daniel believed he had solved his problems by pushing her out, he couldn't foresee how deeply his actions would change both their lives forever. Maria wandered the streets that night, her breath visible in the cold air as she clutched her small suitcase. She didn't know where to go or what to do next. The weight of Daniel's words still echoed in her mind. "You're nothing but a burden." Those words cut deeper than any knife ever could. But even in her pain, Maria refused to let despair take over. She had faced tough times before, and somehow she always found a way to keep moving forward, after walking for what felt like hours. Maria remembered hearing about a shelter run by nuns on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, but it was somewhere safe, at least for the night. With trembling hands, she knocked on the heavy wooden door. A kind woman with soft eyes and a warm smile answered. "Come in, dear," she said gently, ushering Maria inside. The shelter was simple, a few beds lined up against the walls, a small kitchen area, and a room filled with sewing machines and fabric scraps. Despite its modesty, it radiated warmth and care. The nun who greeted Maria introduced herself as Sister Margaret. She listened quietly as Maria poured out her story, tears streaming down her face. When Maria finished speaking, Sister Margaret placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You are stronger than you think," she said softly, "and you are not alone." Over the next few days, Maria began settling into life at the shelter. At first, she kept mostly to herself, too embarrassed to share meals with the other women or join in their conversations. But slowly, she started opening up. One morning, while helping prepare breakfast, she met Elena, a young woman around Daniel's age. Elena had dreams of starting her own fashion line, but struggled to make ends meet. Her designs were beautiful, but without resources or connections, she couldn't turn them into a sustainable business. Elena noticed Maria's skillful hands one day when they were folding clothes together. "Have you ever sewn before?" Elena asked curiously. Maria nodded, explaining how she used to mend clothes for her family and even made dresses for neighbors when she was younger. Elena's eyes lit up. "Would you like to help me with something?" she asked excitedly. From that moment on, Maria and Elena became inseparable. They spent hours hunched over sewing machines, turning scraps of fabric into stunning pieces, dresses, scarves, bags, and more. Maria's years of experience added a unique touch to Elena's modern designs, creating a style that was both timeless and fresh. Word spread quickly among the other women at the shelter, and soon, everyone wanted to pitch in. What started as a small project turned into a bustling little workshop. One afternoon, Elena suggested they try selling their creations online. "We don't need a fancy shop," she said confidently. "People love handmade items with a story behind them." Maria hesitated at first. Selling things online seemed complicated, especially for someone like her who had never owned a smartphone, let alone posted anything on social media. But Elena reassured her, promising to guide her through every step. They set up a simple page on a popular marketplace platform, uploading photos of their products along with short descriptions. To their surprise, orders started trickling in almost immediately. Customers praised the quality and uniqueness of the designs, often leaving glowing reviews. One customer wrote, "This scarf is absolutely beautiful. I can tell so much love went into making it." Reading those words brought tears to Maria's eyes, not because of sadness, but because of hope. For the first time in months, she felt like she had purpose again. As sales picked up, Maria realized she needed a place of her own. Living at the shelter was wonderful, but it wasn't meant to be permanent. With the money she earned from the business, she rented a tiny apartment nearby. It wasn't luxurious, but it was hers. She painted the walls a cheerful yellow and filled it with secondhand furniture she found at garage sales. In one corner, she set up a workspace with a sewing machine and stacks of colorful fabrics. Every stitch she made reminded her of how far she'd come. Meanwhile, back at the house, Daniel convinced himself that kicking Maria out was the right decision. Life was easier now, he told himself. No more nagging, no more arguments about bills. He strutted around the house like he owned the world, boasting to Jessica about how stress-free everything was. But beneath his confident facade, cracks began to form. Jessica noticed the change in him almost immediately. Gone was the caring, hard-working man she had fallen in love with. In his place stood someone selfish and ungrateful. She tried talking to him about it, urging him to reconsider his actions, but Daniel brushed her off. "She'll be fine," he said dismissively. "Mom knows how to take care of herself." But Jessica wasn't so sure. She had seen glimpses of Maria during holidays and family gatherings. The woman she remembered was gentle and kind, the type of person who would give you the shirt off her back if you needed it. Kicking her out like that didn't sit right with Jessica. Over time, her frustration grew. Arguments between her and Daniel became frequent, each one more heated than the last. "You don't understand what you've done," Jessica snapped one evening after yet another fight. "Your mom gave you everything, her time, her love, her home, and this is how you repay her. You should be ashamed of yourself." Daniel rolled his eyes, muttering something under his breath about how dramatic she was being. But deep down, her words gnawed at him. He tried to push them aside, telling himself he was better off without Maria. Yet late at night, when the house was quiet, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Back at her apartment, Maria continued building her new life. Her partnership with Elena flourished, and their little business grew steadily. Orders came in faster than they could fulfill them, prompting them to hire some of the women from the shelter to help out. These women, many of whom had been through hardships of their own, found solace and purpose in the work. Together, they created not just clothes but a community of support and friendship. Despite her success, Maria never forgot where she came from. Whenever she had free time, she returned to the shelter to volunteer, teaching sewing classes to anyone interested. Watching others learn and grow brought her immense joy. It reminded her that even in the darkest moments, there is always light waiting to break through. Word of Maria's journey spread beyond the shelter. A local reporter heard about her story and reached out to interview her. At first, Maria hesitated. She didn't want attention or pity. She simply wanted to move forward. But Elena encouraged her to share her experience. "Your story could inspire others," she said. "People need to know that no matter how hard life gets, there's always a way to rise above it." Reluctantly, Maria agreed. The interview aired on a local news channel, capturing the hearts of viewers across the region. People were moved by her resilience and determination. Social media buzzed with praise for Maria, calling her an inspiration. Some even shared their own stories of overcoming adversity, thanking her for giving them hope. However, the spotlight also cast a harsh glare on Daniel. Viewers recognized the house in the background of old family photos Maria showed during the interview. Comments flooded in, criticizing Daniel for treating his mother so cruelly. Local businesses, once eager to work with him, suddenly distanced themselves, fearing backlash from the community. Even his friends stopped returning his calls. For the first time, Daniel began to see the consequences of his actions. His carefully constructed world was crumbling around him, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Maria's life was changing in ways she never imagined. Her business wasn't just growing, it was thriving. Orders poured in faster than she and Elena could handle them. Customers loved the unique designs that combined Maria's traditional craftsmanship with Elena's modern flair. Every package they sent out carried a handwritten note from Maria. "Thank you for supporting our dream. Each piece is made with love." It was more than just a message. It was a reflection of who Maria was and how far she had come. The two women decided it was time to expand. They rented a small space downtown, transforming it into a cozy studio where they could work on their designs and showcase their creations. The walls were painted a soft cream color, and shelves lined with vibrant fabrics gave the room a warm, inviting feel. A sign above the door read, "Threads of Hope," a name Elena suggested after hearing Maria talk about her journey. It's not just about clothes, Maria explained to customers who visited. It's about finding hope even when life feels impossible. As word spread about Threads of Hope, people began flocking to the studio, not just to buy clothing but to meet Maria herself. Strangers would walk in, share their struggles, and leave feeling lighter, as if talking to her somehow eased their burdens. Maria didn't have all the answers, but she listened with an open heart, offering encouragement whenever she could. She often said, "Life will knock you down, but you get to choose whether you stay down or stand back up." Elena admired Maria deeply. "You're amazing, you know that?" she told her one day while they were working on a new collection. "Most people would have crumbled after what happened to you. But here you are, building something beautiful." Maria smiled softly, threading a needle with practiced ease. "I didn't have a choice," she replied. "When you hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up. Besides, I had too much to be grateful for. This little studio. You, the women at the shelter. I couldn't give up." Her words stayed with Elena long after their conversation ended. Maria's strength inspired everyone around her, including the women they employed from the shelter. These women, many of whom had faced abuse, poverty, or loss, found refuge in the studio. Working alongside Maria gave them not just income but dignity and purpose. One woman, Rosa, often said, "Maria taught me that my hands can create beauty, even if my life has been messy." Meanwhile, Daniel's world was unraveling. The negative attention from Maria's interview hit him hard. People in town whispered behind his back, calling him ungrateful and selfish. Some outright confronted him, demanding to know how he could treat his own mother so cruelly. Even his co-workers avoided him, uncomfortable with the stigma surrounding his name. Jessica, fed up with Daniel's arrogance, finally reached her breaking point. One evening, after yet another argument about his refusal to apologize to Maria, she packed her bags. "I can't live like this anymore," she told him firmly. "You act like nothing's wrong, but your actions speak louder than your excuses. Until you face what you've done, don't bother trying to contact me." Daniel watched silently as Jessica walked out the door, slamming it shut behind her. For a moment he stood frozen, staring at the empty hallway. He told himself he didn't need her, just like he convinced himself he didn't need Maria. But, deep down, loneliness crept in, gnawing at him like a relentless shadow. Alone in the house, Daniel tried to distract himself by watching TV or scrolling through social media. But everywhere he looked, reminders of Maria's success stared back at him. Friends tagged her in posts celebrating her achievements. Customers raved about her. Designs and local news outlets continued featuring her story. Each mention felt like a punch to the gut, forcing him to confront the truth he'd been avoiding. He had messed up badly. Desperate to escape his guilt, Daniel threw himself into selling off anything valuable in the house. First, it was the antique furniture Maria's late husband had cherished. Then came the paintings, the china set, and even the tools Maria used for gardening. With each sale, Daniel hoped the money would fill the void inside him, but instead he felt emptier. Selling those items wasn't just about paying bills, it was erasing pieces of his past, memories he shared with his parents, and yet he couldn't stop. One rainy afternoon, while rummaging through the attic, Daniel stumbled upon an old photo album. Dust covered its cover, but the sight of it sent a pang of nostalgia through him. Curious, he opened it and flipped through the pages. There were pictures of him as a child, playing in the garden, blowing out birthday candles, sitting on Maria's lap as she read him bedtime stories. In every photo, Maria's smile radiated warmth and love. Tears welled up in Daniel's eyes as guilt overwhelmed him. How could he have treated her so horribly? That sweet, patient woman in the photos wasn't a burden. She was his mother, the person who sacrificed everything for him. He thought about the countless meals she cooked, the sleepless nights she spent caring for him when he was sick, the way she cheered him on during school events. All those moments came rushing back, drowning him in regret. For the first time, Daniel allowed himself to truly feel the weight of what he had done. He realized that no amount of money or possessions could replace the relationship he had destroyed. Sitting amidst the clutter of forgotten belongings, he made a decision. He needed to find Maria and beg for forgiveness. Tracking her down wasn't easy. Daniel hadn't paid attention to Maria's life since kicking her out, and now she seemed to be everywhere. In interviews, on social media, and in conversations around town. After asking discreetly, he learned about Threads of Hope and decided to visit the studio. When he arrived, his stomach churned with nerves. What if she refused to see him? What if she hated him? Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door and stepped inside. The scent of fresh fabric greeted him, mingling with the hum of sewing machines and laughter from the women working together. At first, Maria didn't notice him standing there. She was bent over a sewing machine, her fingers deftly guiding fabric under the needle. When she finally looked up and saw him, her expression froze. The room fell silent as everyone turned to watch. Daniel swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, I'm sorry. I was wrong. About everything." Maria stared at him, her eyes searching his face for sincerity. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then slowly she nodded. "Come sit," she said quietly, gesturing to a chair nearby. "We need to talk." The other women exchanged glances but quickly returned to their work, giving them privacy. Daniel sat down, his hands trembling as he prepared to explain himself. He knew apologizing wouldn't erase the pain he caused, but it was a start, a step toward mending the broken bond between them. Maria's voice was calm but firm as she motioned for Daniel to sit. The room, once buzzing with activity, now felt heavy with tension. The women working around them exchanged quick glances before returning to their tasks, pretending not to eavesdrop. Daniel hesitated for a moment, then lowered himself into the chair across from Maria. His hands trembled slightly and he clasped them together in an attempt to steady himself. I don't even know where to start," Daniel began, his voice cracking under the weight of his emotions. He stared at the floor, unable to meet Maria's eyes. "I came here because I needed to tell you how sorry I am. For everything." Maria didn't respond immediately. She studied him carefully, her expression unreadable. It wasn't anger or hatred that filled her gaze, just sadness, mixed with something else Daniel couldn't quite place. Was it disappointment, pity, or maybe hope? Finally, she spoke, her tone measured but kind. "You hurt me deeply, Daniel. Kicking me out of my own home, it broke something inside me. But what hurt the most wasn't losing the house. It was losing you." Her voice softened on those last words, and Daniel felt a lump rise in his throat. "I never meant to hurt you," he said quickly, leaning forward as if trying to close the gap between them. "I was selfish and blind. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone, but all I did was tear us apart." Maria nodded slowly, her fingers tracing the edge of the sewing table beside her. "People make mistakes, Daniel. That's part of being human. But owning up to those mistakes, that's what matters most." "Do you really mean what you're saying?" Daniel swallowed hard, nodding vigorously. "Yes, Mom, I mean it. I want to fix things. I want to earn your trust again." For a long moment, Maria didn't say anything. She simply looked at him, searching his face for sincerity. Then finally, she sighed. "It won't be easy," she warned. "Trust takes time to rebuild, especially after something like this. But if you're willing to put in the effort, I'm willing to listen." Relief washed over Daniel, though he knew this was only the beginning. He had spent months ignoring the consequences of his actions, convincing himself that life would go back to normal once the dust settled. Now, sitting here in front of Maria, he realized just how wrong he'd been. This wasn't going to be fixed with a single apology or a heartfelt conversation. If he wanted to repair their relationship, he would have to prove himself through action, not words. Over the next few weeks, Daniel threw himself into making amends. He started by helping out at Threads of Hope, volunteering his time to assist with inventory, deliveries, and anything else Maria needed. At first, the other women eyed him warily, unsure whether they could trust him. After all, Many of them knew his story and had seen firsthand how much pain he had caused Maria. But Daniel didn't let their skepticism deter him. He showed up every day, eager to contribute in any way he could. One afternoon, while organizing fabric shelves, Daniel struck up a conversation with Rosa, one of the women who worked at the studio. She glanced at him sideways, clearly hesitant to engage. "Why are you really here?" she asked bluntly. "Are you trying to make yourself look good, or do you actually care about fixing things?" Her question caught Daniel off guard, but he appreciated her honesty. "To be honest, I'm not sure," he admitted. "At first, I just wanted to prove to my mom that I've changed. But being here, seeing how hard everyone works and how much this place means to people, it's made me realize how much I took for granted. I don't expect anyone to forgive me overnight, but I'm hoping to show that I'm serious about changing." Rosa studied him for a moment, before nodding slowly. "Good," she said simply. "Just remember, actions speak louder than words." Those words stuck with Daniel long after the conversation ended. He began taking on more responsibilities at the studio, learning the intricacies of running a business alongside Maria and Elena. He helped manage orders, negotiated with suppliers, and even pitched in during late-night sewing sessions when deadlines loomed. Slowly but surely, the women at the studio began warming up to him. They saw the effort he was putting in and acknowledged that he was genuinely trying to turn things around. Back at home, or rather, what used to be home, Daniel faced another set of challenges. With Jessica gone and mounting bills piling up, he struggled to keep the house afloat. Selling off furniture and valuables had provided temporary relief, but it wasn't enough to sustain him long term. For the first time in years, Daniel found himself applying for jobs, humbling himself in interviews and working odd hours just to make ends meet. The experience taught him lessons he hadn't anticipated. Growing up, Maria had always shielded him from financial struggles, ensuring he never went without. Now living paycheck to paycheck, Daniel gained a newfound appreciation for the sacrifices she had made and continued to make for others. He thought about the countless times she had stretched every penny to provide for him, and guilt gnawed at him whenever he remembered how ungrateful he had been. One evening, after a long day of work at the studio, Daniel sat down with Maria to talk about the future. "Mom, I've been thinking," he said cautiously. "This house, it doesn't feel right keeping it anymore. It belongs to you. Always has. I want to give it back to you." Maria raised an eyebrow, surprised by his offer. "Are you sure about that, Daniel? This isn't just about clearing your conscience, is it?" "No," he replied firmly. "It's about doing what's right. You built this house with Dad. It's yours. Besides, I don't think I deserve it. Not after everything I've done." Maria considered his words for a moment before responding. "Thank you for offering, Daniel. But giving me the house won't magically fix our relationship. What matters is that you continue showing up not just for me but for yourself too." Daniel nodded, understanding her point. Returning the house might symbolize a step toward redemption, but true healing required consistent effort. And so, he committed himself to staying involved in Maria's life, not just as her son, but as a partner in her journey. As months passed, Daniel's transformation became evident to everyone around him. He no longer carried the entitled attitude that had defined him in the past. Instead, he approached life with humility and gratitude, valuing relationships over material possessions. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, both he and Maria were determined to move forward, together. Through it all, Maria maintained her unwavering strength and compassion. She forgave Daniel, not because she condoned his actions, but because holding on to resentment would only weigh her down. "Life is too short to carry grudges," she often reminded him. "We're given second chances for a reason. Don't waste yours." And Daniel listened. Every stitch sewn at threads of hope, every shared meal, every quiet moment spent reflecting on their progress served as a reminder of how far they had come and how far they still had to go. Their bond, though fragile, was slowly mending, piece by piece, thread by thread. Months turned into a year, and life for Maria and Daniel began to settle into a new rhythm. The wounds of the past were still there, but they were healing, slowly, like cracks in a wall being patched up with care. Daniel continued working at Threads of Hope, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He found purpose in helping others, something he had never experienced before. Each day he learned more about the women who worked alongside him, their stories, their struggles, and their dreams. It opened his eyes to a world beyond himself, one where kindness and resilience mattered more than money or status. Maria watched her son's transformation closely. She saw how hard he was trying, how much effort he put into every task, no matter how small. Whether it was packing orders late at night or teaching a new volunteer how to use the sewing machine, Daniel gave it his all. Still, she didn't let him off the hook easily. Forgiveness wasn't something she handed out freely. It had to be earned, and Daniel knew that better than anyone. One evening, after closing up the studio, Maria invited Daniel to sit with her on the porch outside. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. For a while, neither of them spoke. They simply sat side by side, enjoying the quiet moment together. Finally, Maria broke the silence. "You've come a long way, Daniel," she said softly, her voice carrying warmth as well as caution. "But I want you to understand something. This isn't just about fixing what happened between us. It's about becoming the person you're meant to be." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. He understood what she meant. The guilt of his actions still lingered, even though Maria had forgiven him. Every time he looked at her, he remembered the pain he had caused, the nights she must have spent crying alone, the uncertainty of not knowing where to go or what to do next. Those memories pushed him to keep going, to prove to both of them that he could change. "I know, Mom," he replied earnestly. "I don't expect things to go back to the way they were overnight. But I promise, I'll keep trying, not just for you, but for me too." Maria smiled faintly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "That's all I can ask for, Daniel. Just remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It takes patience, consistency, and courage." As the weeks went by, Daniel started mentoring other young men who reminded him of his younger self, arrogant, selfish, and blind to the needs of those around them. One such man was a neighbor named Alex, who often complained about his parents interfering in his life. When Daniel overheard Alex venting about how annoying his mom was, he decided to step in. "Hey, Alex," Daniel called out casually, approaching him one afternoon. "Mind if I talk to you for a sec?" Alex shrugged, looking skeptical, but curious. "Sure, I guess. What's up?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Look, I get it. Sometimes parents can feel like they're holding you back, especially when you're trying to figure things out on your own. But trust me, pushing them away won't solve anything. In fact, it might make things worse." Alex raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "How would you know? You're not exactly known for being close to your family." The comment stung, but Daniel forced himself to stay calm. "You're right," he admitted. "I messed up big time with my mom. I treated her like she didn't matter, like everything she did for me was worthless. And now I'm paying the price, trying to rebuild what I destroyed." For a moment, Alex didn't say anything. Then, slowly, he asked, "So, what changed? How'd you fix it?" Daniel chuckled bitterly. "Fix is a strong word. Let's just say I'm working on it. Every day is a battle, not with my mom, but with myself. I have to remind myself why this is important, why she deserves better than how I treated her." Alex seemed to mull over Daniel's words, his expression softening slightly. "I don't know, man. Sounds like a lot of work." "It is," Daniel agreed. "But it's worth it. Trust me, you don't want to end up regretting the choices you make now. Family is precious, Alex. Don't take it for granted." Though Alex didn't respond immediately, Daniel noticed a shift in his attitude over the following days. He stopped complaining about his parents and even offered to help his mom with chores around the house. Seeing this small victory filled Daniel with pride. It was proof that his efforts weren't just changing his own life, They were making a difference in others' lives too. Meanwhile, Maria continued expanding Threads of Hope, turning it into more than just a business. Alongside Elena, she launched workshops aimed at empowering women from marginalized communities. These workshops taught skills like sewing, embroidery, and basic entrepreneurship, giving participants tools to build better futures for themselves and their families. The studio became a hub of activity, buzzing with laughter, creativity, and collaboration. One Saturday morning, during a workshop session, a young woman named Lisa approached Maria with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching a finished scarf she had made. "This is the first thing I've ever created that I'm proud of. You've given me hope when I thought there was none left." Maria hugged her tightly, feeling a surge of emotion. Moments like these reminded her why she had started this journey in the first place, to inspire others, to show them that no matter how dark life seemed, there was always light waiting to break through. Daniel witnessed these interactions often and couldn't help but feel inspired. Watching Maria pour her heart into helping others reignited a sense of purpose within him. He realized that success wasn't measured by wealth or achievements. It was about the impact you had on people's lives. For the first time in years, he felt truly fulfilled. Despite the progress they had made, Daniel and Maria knew their relationship would never be perfect. There were still moments of tension, reminders of the past that surfaced unexpectedly. Once, during a family dinner hosted by Maria, Daniel accidentally knocked over a vase, a cherished gift from her late husband. Panic flashed across his face as shards of glass scattered across the floor. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he stammered, rushing to clean it up. "I didn't mean to." To his surprise, Maria laughed softly, shaking her head. "It's just a vase, Daniel. Accidents happen. Don't worry about it." Her reaction caught him off guard, but it also eased the knot of anxiety tightening in his chest. Over time, he noticed subtle changes like this: how Maria seemed less guarded around him, how she laughed more freely, how she trusted him with tasks she used to handle herself. These small shifts were signs of progress, proof that their bond was growing stronger. By the end of the year, Threads of Hope had become a beacon of hope, not just for Maria and Daniel, but for the entire community. Their story inspired countless people, showing that second chances were possible, even after the deepest hurts. Together, mother and son proved that love, forgiveness, and determination could overcome even the toughest challenges. As they stood together one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in fiery colors, Daniel turned to Maria with a smile. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Maria nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Yes, we have, and we're not done yet." They shared a quiet laugh, the kind that comes from knowing you've weathered storms together and emerged stronger on the other side. Life hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Years had passed since Maria and Daniel began rebuilding their relationship, and life for both of them had transformed in ways neither could have imagined. Threads of Hope wasn't just a business anymore, it was a movement. What started as a small studio with two women sewing scarves had grown into a thriving organization that touched lives across the community. The workshops expanded beyond sewing to include financial literacy classes, mental health support groups, and even art therapy sessions. Women who once felt invisible found confidence, purpose, and friendship within its walls. Maria became a local legend, not because she sought fame, but because her story inspired so many. People admired her resilience, her ability to turn pain into power, and her unwavering commitment to helping others. She often said, "I didn't choose this path, it chose me, but I'm grateful for every step of it." Her words resonated deeply with those who heard them, reminding everyone that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way forward. Daniel, too, had changed in profound ways. Gone was the selfish man who thought only of himself. In his place stood someone grounded, compassionate, and driven by a desire to make amends, not just with Maria, but with the world around him. He mentored young men struggling with anger or entitlement, sharing his own mistakes openly to show them that redemption was possible. "You don't have to be perfect," he'd tell them. but you do have to try. One crisp autumn morning, Maria decided it was time to take the next big step. She gathered everyone at Threads of Hope, employees, volunteers, and supporters, for a special announcement. As they sat together in the cozy studio space, she stood at the front, clutching a piece of paper in her hands. "I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of this journey," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "When I first came here, I was broken. I didn't know if I could keep going, but all of you reminded me that strength comes from community, from leaning on each other when we're weak and lifting each other up when we fall." She paused, glancing around the room at familiar faces. "That's why today I'm announcing the launch of the Threads of Hope Foundation. Our goal is simple: to help single parents and seniors facing financial hardship. We'll provide resources, training, and support to ensure no one has to face tough times alone." The room erupted in applause, cheers filling the air as people hugged and congratulated each other. It was a moment of celebration, not just for what they had achieved, but for the future they were building together. Daniel watched proudly from the back of the room, marveling at how far his mother had come. This foundation wasn't just about giving back. It was a tribute to everything Maria had endured and overcome. As the foundation gained traction, Daniel took on a leadership role alongside Maria. Together, they traveled to nearby towns, spreading awareness and gathering support. They spoke at schools, churches, and community centers, sharing their story of reconciliation and resilience. Audiences listened intently, moved by their honesty and determination. During one such event, a middle-aged man approached Daniel after the talk. His eyes were red from crying and his voice trembled as he spoke. "Your story. It hit close to home," he admitted. "I haven't spoken to my mom in years. I let pride get in the way, and now I don't even know where she is. Do you think it's too late to reach out?" Daniel placed a hand on the man's shoulder, understanding exactly how he felt. "It's never too late," he replied gently. "Start small. Write her a letter, make a call, whatever feels right. Just take that first step. Trust me, you won't regret it." The man nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes. Moments like these reinforced Daniel's belief that their work mattered. By sharing their story, they weren't just healing themselves, they were helping others heal too. Back home, Maria and Daniel continued nurturing their relationship. Though forgiveness had been granted, trust still required effort. There were days when old wounds resurfaced, reminders of the pain they had caused each other. But instead of avoiding those moments, they faced them head-on, talking through their feelings honestly and openly. One evening, as they sat together on the porch of the house Daniel had returned to Maria, she turned to him with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever wonder what your dad would say if he saw us now?" she asked softly. Daniel smiled, imagining his father's booming laugh and kind eyes. "Yeah, I think about that a lot," he admitted. "He'd probably give me a hard time for messing things up so badly, but then he'd pat me on the back and tell me to keep going. That family is worth fighting for." Maria chuckled, nodding in agreement. "He always did believe in second chances, just like I do." They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance in the twilight. The house felt different now, warmer, fuller, alive with memories being made anew. It wasn't just a building. It was a symbol of hope, forgiveness, and love rediscovered. Years later, when Daniel looked back on his life, he realized something important. Success wasn't about titles, money, or recognition. It was about connection. The bonds we nurture, the lives we touch, and the legacy we leave behind. Through Threads of Hope and the Foundation, Maria ensured that her impact would endure long after she was gone. And Daniel, once lost in arrogance and self-centeredness, found meaning in serving others. Their story served as a reminder that life is unpredictable, messy, and beautiful all at once. Mistakes are inevitable, but so is growth. Love can survive. Betrayal and forgiveness can mend even the deepest wounds. Most importantly, it proved that no matter how far apart people drift, there's always a chance to come back, to find your way home. And for Maria and Daniel, That home wasn't just a place, it was each other.